At 25, Ji-eon works 3 jobs a day. In the morning, she worked at a fast food chain. During lunchtime, she rushed to a restaurant. And when night fell, she took the midnight shift at a convenience store. She doesn't dream of love or success. She just wants one thing, a place she can finally call home. And then, an ad plays on her phone. Who do you spend your time with? Friends, a lover, or your family? But Doyun Nam spends his time with Dear Apartment. Dear Apartment, always there for you, forever, a place you call home. Looking at the screen, Ji-eon frowned. Just who the hell is this ad even for, she muttered. It was almost funny, running such an ad on a platform where you barely make 10 cents for watching ads. She stood behind the counter, completely drained, when the bell rang and an old man walked in. She had collapsed a few times from working like this, but she'd learned a couple of things. First, the hardest part wasn't the job itself. Second, there was no such thing as an uneventful day, though today could almost be called uneventful. The old man grabbed a bottle of soju. Ji-eon rang it up and told him the amount. Then suddenly, he placed a doll and a pair of toy handcuffs on the counter. Before she could react, he opened the bottle and gulped it down. Ji-eon's expression darkened. Of course, she thought. How could my day go this smoothly? She'd known it from the start. This old geezer had been strange the moment he walked in. Sir, she said, forcing herself to stay professional, you need to pay with money, and you can't drink that before paying. The man only pointed at the doll and the toy handcuffs. Each is worth 1,001, he said casually. I won them from a claw machine earlier. You can keep the extra 201 as a tip. Ji-eon's anger boiled over. Sir, if you don't pay with money, I'll report you. Just then, the bell rang again. A group of students rushed in, their school day clearly over. The store filled with noise and chaos. When Ji-eon turned back to the counter, the old man was gone. She looked around frantically, but he had already disappeared. How can any day be normal? She screamed inside. I've had enough. The moment I save enough money, I'm quitting this stupid job. Her shift ended soon after, and she left the store. Back home, she stared at the doll. It was a Mingji doll, recently popular, but this piece of junk had cost her 1,801. She didn't have much time before heading to her next job, but still, she decided to watch her favorite drama before sleeping. On screen, the male lead was giving up everything. His business, his lavish apartment, even his rich parents. He was ready to cut off his ponytail, his best feature, just to marry the woman he loved, standing there convincing her mother. Ji-eon blinked sleepily. How lucky, she thought. I want an apartment like that too. But before she could think any further, sleep claimed her. The next morning, Ji-eon took the bus. On weekdays, she worked 3 jobs, but on weekends she took temporary gigs, jobs that actually paid decently. And today's job was at a broadcast studio, working as an extra. As soon as she arrived, a man handed her a slip. She was told to fill it out, listing what she worked on today so she could get paid. Then the man added casually, you'll need to pay a registration fee, 30,001. Ji-eon froze. What? She blurted out, completely caught off guard. She argued, but the man remained firm, reminding her that people often leave in the middle of work, and the fee was meant to prevent that. The pay was good, and Ji-eon didn't really have a choice. So in the end, she paid the fee. The extras were given a 20-minute break before they were told to gather again. Ji-eon wandered around the studio. It was huge, but despite that, not a single celebrity was in sight. She sighed. It would have been nice to see someone, especially a celebrity from My Ponytail Lover, the drama she'd watched the night before, the one that had recently become incredibly popular. Lost in thought, she drifted toward the green room. Before she could see anyone move, a cold voice stopped her. Startled, Ji-eon turned around. A man stood behind her, looking at her with an icy expression. Dear Apartment, she thought suddenly. No, wait, that wasn't it. Doyun Nam? She called out hesitantly. He frowned. Why are you so late on your first day? He said flatly. Then, brushing past her, he entered the room. Forget it, just come inside. Ji-eon hesitated, then followed him in. Excuse me? She asked carefully. What am I supposed to do today? The man, busy playing on his phone, replied without looking up. Bring my clothes from my van. Then he added, almost as an afterthought, and I'll have a 9-spanner. Ji-eon's eyes widened. What? Is that? She asked. He finally looked at her, sighing in clear annoyance. Later, the cafe door opened. Ji-eon staggered inside, panting, her arms piled high with layers of clothes. She tried desperately to remember what the man had ordered. The name was completely gone from her mind. In the end, she blurted out, I'll have an Einstein. The entire cafe fell silent. Everyone stared at her. After a moment, the cashier smiled politely. Oh, you mean Einspanner. Would you like it hot or cold? Ji-eon raised her head, panicking slightly. He didn't say anything about that, so she bought both. Back in the room, she placed everything on the table. Here's your Einstein, she said, then added, and your clothes. The man stared at her, confused. Why did you get both? Ji-eon laughed. Just in case, she said, but inside she screamed, just in case you get mad, you freak. Picking up a coffee, the man gestured for her to sit. She sat beside him but couldn't help it. Her eyes kept drifting back to him. Aside from being rude, he really was good-looking. "Why are you staring at me?" he asked. Ji-eon flushed, realizing she'd been caught. "Oh, it's just really new to me," she said quickly. "I've never seen a celebrity in person before, and I didn't even know an extra had to do all this work." The man turned to her. "Extra?" he repeated. "Aren't you a manager for 2 years?" That was the moment Ji-eon realized she was in deep trouble. She was supposed to return in 20 minutes. But by the time she got back, it was already too late. She tried to explain, but no one listened. "Girls your age are always like this," the man who had promised her work said dismissively. "You abandon your responsibilities just to see a celebrity. Now get out of here." And just like that, Ji-eon returned home. But what should have been a place of rest was covered in dirt, clothes, and scattered belongings. She tiptoed inside and finally collapsed onto her bed. "What's wrong with girls my age?" she wondered aloud. "We're only trying our best to live," she mumbled. She should have just stayed home. She should have watched My Ponytail Lover instead. The money she spent on transportation, the registration fee, and that expensive coffee was barely less than what she would have earned. And that damn Doyun Nam hadn't even offered her a single coffee, the one she bought with her own money. As she cursed, her eyes landed on the doll she'd received yesterday. She picked it up, anger boiling as she remembered how much money she'd wasted on this stupid thing. And somehow, the doll's face reminded her of that stupid man. "Doyun Nam," she muttered. "This is all your fault. How dare you make me work for free?" She squeezed the doll hard. "Now get on your knees and beg for forgiveness." A dangerous laugh escaped her lips. "In fact, lick my toes, you ungrateful jerk, and keep apologizing until I forgive you. Why don't you see what it's like to apologize, huh?" Just as she finished venting her frustration, the doorbell rang. Who is it, she wondered, thinking it was her landlord coming to complain about the noise. She prepared to apologize. But the moment she opened the door, her eyes widened. There on his knees was Doyun Nam. He himself looked completely dumbfounded. What was he even doing here? Before his mind could catch up, his body moved on its own. He clapped his hands together and bowed. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me," he said, utterly embarrassed. And 25-year-old Ji-eon, whose only dream was to move into a better apartment, didn't yet realize that from today onward she had a man who would follow her every order. All because of that damn doll. So what happened earlier? Doyun Nam received a call from his manager. The voice on the other end sounded tense. The temporary manager who was supposed to come today never showed up. Doyun froze. That was when it hit him. The girl who had run off earlier, she was a complete stranger. He let out a slow sigh. How could I make such a ridiculous mistake? Just then, the door opened. A director who was going to work with Doyun stepped inside. Doyun immediately stood up to greet him. "Hey Doyun. Long time no see," the director said cheerfully. "It's been a while. I still can't believe you're doing a cameo in our drama. I'm really looking forward to the ratings going up." "Yes, I hope so," Doyun replied with a small smile. "But you can't stay like this forever," the director continued, as he led Doyun outside. "You haven't changed a bit since you were young. It's such a shame to see you appearing only in ads these days." As they left the room, Doyun suddenly turned in the opposite direction. The director stopped and looked back, puzzled. "Doyun? Where are you going? That's the wrong way," he kept calling out to him. But Doyun Nam didn't stop. He kept walking forward, as if he were possessed. And that was how he ended up here, standing at Ji-eon's door, asking for forgiveness. "What are you doing? Please get up." "Stop this," Ji-eon said, completely flustered. Doyun looked up at her. Inside, he screamed that he would love to, but he just can't. His body refused to listen. Ji-eon panicked. What if the whole building wakes up and sees this? "I'm calling the cops if you don't stop," she warned, turning to go inside for her phone. Suddenly, something grabbed her foot. She froze. Turning back, Ji-eon stared at him in confusion. "What are you doing? Let go," she shouted. In the struggle, she lost her balance and fell to the floor. Before she could react further, her eyes widened at the scene unfolding in front of her. Doyun Nam was holding onto her foot, pulling it closer to his mouth without understanding why his body was moving on its own. His face showed confusion, as if he were fighting against himself. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop it!" Ji-eon cried out in fear. "Doyun Nam, please stop!" The moment the words left her mouth, Doyun suddenly released her and pushed her leg away, as if the strange force controlling him had finally broken. "Why were you on your knees, apologizing, and even trying to lick my toes?" Ji-eon asked, utterly confused. Doyun, on the other hand, just sat there, completely embarrassed. "I did that?" he muttered. "I don't even know why I did something so shameful," he said, covering his face. "Anyway, please leave now," Ji-eon added. "No, we need to talk about this first," Doyun insisted. But Ji-eon was worried about something else entirely. "Oh, my place is a mess, and you can't just enter a woman's apartment," she said quickly. "There's a public place nearby. We can talk there." There will be lots of people, so it won't be awkward. But the moment she mentioned a lot of people, Doyun's heart began racing uncontrollably. He suddenly froze, breathing unevenly, as if on the verge of a panic attack. Ji-eon caught him in time. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'll be fine. Just give me a few minutes," he replied, huffing. Ji-eon could hear his heartbeat pounding. In the end, she gave up. "Just come inside for now," she said. She handed him some water. "Are you feeling better?" she asked. They sat down amid the layers of trash scattered around the room. "I'm fine. Thank you," Doyun replied after a moment. Ji-eon just stared at him. She had let him in on impulse, but now that she thought about it, did he have some kind of illness? And more importantly, what were they even supposed to talk about now? Meanwhile, Doyun glanced around the room. "Ew, this place is a dump," he thought. Turning back to her, he spoke coldly. "Please don't tell anyone about what happened today. If you say anything, I'll take legal action." Ji-eon's mind exploded. "What was this guy even talking about? Do you even remember what happened today?" she shot back. "You bossed me around and made me run all kinds of errands for you." Doyun looked at her calmly. "I apologized earlier, didn't I? So I think both parties should forget about such painful memories." To him, the conversation was over. Ji-eon, however, felt like her brain had short-circuited. "Fine," she said sharply. "If that's how it's going to be, then I'm getting this off my chest, and getting what I deserve." She raised her phone and shoved the screen toward him. "These are the expenses I paid today. Give it to me. Are you trying to get money out of me now?" he asked, brushing her hand aside. "I'm just asking for the amount I spent on you," she shouted. Doyun reached into his pocket, irritated. Why is she making such a fuss over such a lame amount? Was this all about money from the start? He asked. "What are you talking about?" Ji-eon demanded. "Now that I think about it," he muttered, "why else would I have come to your house and done those weird things?" Ji-eon stared at him in shock. "How would I even do that? How should I know?" he snapped. "Maybe you put something in my coffee." Is he completely delusional? Ji-eon thought. She took a deep breath and tried to reason with him. "Calm down. Why are you being so harsh when you're the reason I didn't get paid today?" He smirked. "See, it always comes back to money. I get it, you want money. I'll tell my agency about the mix-up. They'll reimburse you," he continued. "But if something like this happens again, I won't let it slide. Goodbye." With that, he turned to leave. In the entertainment industry, people always got close to Doyun because of money. That was how people saw him. That was why he had cut off contact with so many people. And that was the same reason he believed this woman had dragged him here. Tch. "I'm sick of it," he thought as he walked out of the apartment. Later that night, Ji-eon lay lazily on her bed, absent-mindedly playing with the doll. She cursed Doyun Nam under her breath. How hard was it to say sorry? It wasn't like she had asked for much, and honestly she had no intention of bringing it up at all, if only he hadn't been so rude. Based on his personality, it didn't even seem like he had come to apologize. Who even licks a stranger's toe, she thought irritably. That was when Ji-eon suddenly froze. Her eyes widened. She remembered it clearly. She was the one who had said those words to the doll. Did I make that happen? The thought sent a chill through her. Meanwhile, at Ohu Entertainment, chaos was unfolding. The CEO was scolding Doyun furiously. "You didn't answer my calls and you just left like that?" "I'm sorry," Doyun replied calmly. "Something came up." But the CEO only grew angrier. "Do you have any idea how hard younger actors work these days?" he snapped. "You haven't worked in 6 years, and this was just a small cameo without any pay. Do you really think you're still the same hotshot you used to be?" Doyun's manager stepped in, trying to calm the situation. But it was already too late. Back at Ji-eon's house, she laughed softly at the thought. "Me controlling Doyun Nam? How ridiculous," she muttered. "It's like saying this Mingji doll has powers." She stared at the doll in her hands. "If that were true," she added quietly, "I really should have punched him earlier." She lifted the doll's arm and lightly jabbed forward. "Jab, Doyun Nam," she whispered at that exact moment. Back in the studio, Doyun suddenly jabbed the CEO. The already furious man exploded with rage. His anger boiled over as he grabbed Doyun by the collar. "Who do you think you are?" the CEO shouted. "You think you deserve special treatment just because you have panic attacks?" Doyun's expression hardened. This was the same man who had once said they were family, back when Doyun was rising. Back in Ji-eon's room, still playing with the doll, she whispered again, "Doyun, now let's jab to the left." And just like that, Doyun struck again. The CEO stumbled backward, clutching his face as blood began to drip from his nose. Later, "How is he?" Doyun asked his manager quietly. "He's fine," the manager replied. "But what about you?" Doyun averted his gaze. "I don't know," he murmured. "But I swear, my body just moved on its own." The manager Kim gave a small, understanding smile. "I get it. But you still shouldn't have left like that," he said gently. Doyun sighed. "Maybe it was a good thing," he said after a pause. "What if I'd had a panic attack on set?" The manager's expression turned worried. Hey Doyun, don't say that. You've gotten a lot better. But deep down, Doyun knew that wasn't true. Just thinking about crowded places still filled him with anxiety. At Ji-eon's place, he had panicked, and at this rate, he wasn't even sure he would be able to start working again. After Doyun left, the manager Kim sat down with the CEO. He tried to persuade him. He asked him to understand, reminding him how much everyone had seen Doyun struggle. But CEO Hushul was still furious. That's easy for you to say, he snapped. You're not the one who got punched in the face. Then he added coldly, mark my words. If Doyun doesn't clean up his act, I'll have no choice but to let him go. Manager Kim let out a dry laugh. It was bold talk, from an agency that had been nothing without Doyun. But this time, CEO Hushul was serious. His contract renewal is coming up, he continued. People think he doesn't have to work because he's made enough money. But, tell me, who's going to pay for an expensive contract for an actor who's beyond recovery? Manager Kim sighed, worry weighing heavily on him. Inside, he could only pray that Doyun would hold himself together, because if he didn't, they were all going to be in serious trouble. The next day at work, Ji-eon stared at the card Doyun had given her for reimbursement. After being insulted like that, she didn't even want to accept his money. Lost in thought, her phone buzzed. A message popped up. Thank you, Ji-eon, I am grateful to you. She sighed. She could have just said that on the phone. Still, no matter how hard she worked, it always felt worthwhile when she thought about her mother. They were living apart for now, but someday, Ji-eon wanted them to live together. And for that, she was willing to work even harder. Smiling softly, she sent money to her mother. That night, Ji-eon finally returned home. Exhausted, she slumped onto her bed. Her eyes drifted toward the doll sitting quietly on the headboard. Frustration surged. She grabbed the doll and shouted, "Give me money! Give me a house, or at least money for a down payment!" She flopped back onto the bed, still talking to the doll. "I'm not asking for dear apartment," she muttered. "I just want a simple place for two. That would be enough." Curling onto her side, she hugged the doll tightly. When everything in the world felt so difficult, all she wanted was to be with her mother. Her mother's face filled her mind, and she whispered softly, "I miss you." Murmuring like that, Ji-eon slowly fell asleep. After a while, a bell rang, tearing her from her sleep. Yawning, she sat up. Who could be here at this hour, she wondered. As she stood and walked toward the door, the feeling was almost like déjà vu. "Who is it?" she mumbled as she opened, and her mouth fell open in shock. Standing there was Doyun Nam. He was wearing a sleep robe and shorts, holding a pillow in one hand. Ji-eon screamed, "What are you doing here? And dressed like that? What is your problem?" But Doyun looked even more shocked than she was. Before she could say anything else, his body swayed, and he collapsed onto the floor. Ji-eon's face went pale. She called out to him in panic, but Doyun was already unconscious. Later, as Doyun regained consciousness, he blinked slowly. The first thing he saw was Ji-eon. Her face was pale, and she was half panicking as she leaned closer. "Are you okay?" she asked anxiously. The moment Doyun fully woke up, he screamed. "Why are you screaming all of a sudden?" Ji-eon asked, startled. Doyun abruptly sat up, grabbing the sheet and pulling it over his bare chest in panic. "What are you doing here?" he shouted. "And what were you planning to do to me?" "Excuse me?" Ji-eon snapped. "You were the one who showed up at my place and fainted. I'm the one who brought you inside because I was worried you'd get sick in the cold, and you still have the audacity to blame me?" Doyun froze. Listening to her, memories slowly surfaced. He was sure he had been in bed when he fell asleep. So how did he end up here? Am I really losing my mind? He wondered, panic creeping in. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, clutching his robe tightly around his neck. Ji-eon stared at him. "Are you apologizing to me?" Doyun nodded. "But maybe you're still not doing this on your own will," Ji-eon muttered cautiously. Doyun shook his head. "It's true that I came here without intending to," he admitted. "But still, showing up at a woman's place this late, dressed like this, it must have been frightening for you. So I'm sorry." This time Ji-eon could tell he was being sincere. Doyun stood up. "I'll leave now," he said. Ji-eon glanced at him from head to toe. "Are you sure you're going to leave like that?" she asked. That was when Doyun finally noticed. His sleep robe was completely torn. While Doyun went to change, Ji-eon picked up the doll. Now she was certain there was no explanation for Doyun's actions other than this Mingji doll. She stared at it and muttered, "When I said I missed someone, I wasn't talking about him." Then she frowned. "And if this is really your doing, then where's my money? And my house?" She glared at the doll, but soon she realized something. No matter what she said, it only seemed to affect Doyun Nam. "Hey," Doyun called from inside. "Yes? Are you done?" Ji-eon replied. The door opened. Doyun stepped out. "Are you kidding me?" he said flatly. "I can let the pants go, but what is this?" He was wearing her girly, funky top. "Oh, that," Ji-eon said awkwardly. "That's the only clean top I have. I never wore it, so I kept it." Doyun's face slowly stiffened as his eyes drifted past her, toward the mountain of mess piled around the room. What kind of woman even lives like this? He wondered. But a few moments later, Ji-eon finally managed to dress him in one of her oversized sweaters. Surprisingly, it fit him perfectly. I can't help it. It smells a little weird, Doyun muttered, scrunching his face. Ji-eon immediately grabbed the sweater, pulling it closer to her face and sniffing it seriously. Hey, what are you doing? Doyun yelled, his face turning bright red. Ji-eon ignored him, still inspecting it. I remember spilling strawberry milk on it a long time ago, but I haven't touched it since then, she murmured. Wait, did I buy this from a vintage shop? Doyun's face went even paler. Hey, it's fine. You can just let it go, he said quietly. Realizing his discomfort, Ji-eon quickly handed him her phone. You can contact someone or book cab with this, she said. Doyun's face fell slightly. There really wasn't anyone he felt close enough to call at this hour. In the end, he booked a cab. They sat quietly in the room, waiting. I can't believe I'm still awake, Ji-eon thought. I'm totally screwed tomorrow. Do you mind if I watch my show? She asked, pulling out her phone. Oh, that's fine, Doyun replied. What are you watching? Ponytail Lovers, she said casually. The one written by Jung-suk Kim? He asked. Ji-eon's face instantly lit up. Oh, you know her? A lot of men don't even know screenwriters, she said happily. You do know I'm in the industry, right? Doyun replied, giving her an incredulous look. Of course, Ji-eon smiled. I love all the dramas she's written. Yes, Doyun said calmly. She's very good at romantic dramas. I starred in one of hers. Oh, really? Ji-eon said. Let me search it. She had no real interest, but she didn't want to seem rude, so she started typing. Then, her eyes suddenly widened as she stared at the screen. I think the taxi should be arriving soon, Doyun said casually. Can you hand me the phone so I can check? No, Ji-eon replied far too quickly. I'll let you know. Just stay where you are. Doyun frowned. Why did her attitude change all of a sudden? He wondered. Earlier, she'd been completely calm. A strange thought crossed his mind. He stood up abruptly. Hey, let me see the phone. His voice sharpened. Were you filming me while I was sleeping? Ji-eon's face fell. Why would I even do that? She thought desperately. Don't deny it, Doyun continued. I saw the way you were looking at me. I can tell. You want this body. Ji-eon froze. What is this man even talking about? But without realizing it, she was staring at him from head to toe. See? He said sharply. You're staring. Please stop. He snatched the phone from her hand. If I find even one photo of me in here, I'm not letting it go. Hey, wait! Ji-eon shouted from behind. She rushed to get off the bed, but her foot slipped. Doyun! Doyun turned around just in time to see her flying toward him. From his perspective, it looked like a woman throwing herself at him. Instinctively, Ji-eon grabbed onto him for support, and the two of them crashed to the floor together. Elsewhere, CEO Hucheo clicked his tongue. Just what the hell is he doing? He muttered under his breath. On his screen was an article showing Doyun Nam, dressed in a sleep robe and shorts, wandering the streets while holding a pillow. The next day, as Doyun rode with his manager, he sat unusually quiet. Noticing this, Doyun finally asked, How come you're not asking me anything? Manager Kim laughed lightly. You wouldn't tell me even, if I asked. Sorry, Doyun muttered. You won't do it again, right? Manager Kim asked carefully. Doyun fell silent. He didn't want to, but it wasn't as if he could control it either. What happened last night kept replaying in his mind, especially that woman. If it had really been him, he would never have done something so pointless. Did you do that on purpose? Doyun's voice echoed in his head. When Ji-eon had fallen over him, her face had turned bright red. No, I swear I didn't. I just slipped and fell, she had said frantically. Not that, Doyun had replied, meeting her eyes. Were you trying to hide your phone so I wouldn't see that article? Slowly, Ji-eon had sat up straight. Yes, she answered. Inside, she was flustered. It wasn't because she was worried about him. She just didn't want him to make a fuss and complicate things further. But then, Thank you, Doyun had said. Are you apologizing to me again? She asked, blinking. He nodded. But you don't have to worry, he continued calmly. That kind of article doesn't bother me. It'll be gone by tomorrow anyway. And just like that, as the cab arrived, he had left her with those unexpectedly gentle words. Now, back at work, Ji-eon felt terrible. She couldn't focus on anything. Her thoughts kept circling back, to him, and worse, to that damn Mingji doll. As regret slowly settled in, both Ji-eon and Doyun found themselves thinking about the same thing, about each other, and about why they had both done things that felt so completely out of character. Ji-eon spent the entire day thinking about Doyun Nam. She messed up so many tasks at work that she almost couldn't believe herself. But why was she even worried about him now? He didn't seem to care at all. And more than that, he probably didn't even know her name. After all, he was a famous actor. Why would he need to remember someone like her? As she searched for him online, she found out just how incredible he was. He had started his career as a child actor, earned countless titles, and built an impressive reputation. And here she was, Someone who had boldly acted like that in front of him, even making him wear that ridiculous top. Thinking about it now, she felt strangely embarrassed, but that wasn't really me, she thought. It was all because of that doll. From now on, she needed to be careful. She couldn't say anything careless in front of it. With that thought, she reached into her bag and grabbed the Mingji doll. Hey! Ji-eon froze. Her heart skipped. Wait, did the Mingji doll just talk? She wondered, her mind spiraling. Before she could think any further, she suddenly noticed a man standing at the counter. Startled, she quickly put on a polite smile. Oh, I'm sorry, she said. Are you ready to check out? The man suddenly grabbed her by the collar. You damn girl, he snapped. I've been standing here this whole time, and you've been ignoring me. Ji-eon's face went pale. This wasn't normal behavior. Fear crept in as she turned her gaze instinctively toward the Mingji doll. Should I call out to Doyun Nam? She wondered in panic. Elsewhere, Doyun arrived for a meeting with an advertiser. Manager Kim spoke calmly beside him. Doyun, listen, you have to be polite, okay? When have I not been polite? Doyun replied, frowning. Why are you acting so strange? Suddenly, he flinched as if sensing something. Back at the convenience store, the man raised his hand, about to strike. Ji-eon was so frightened that she squeezed her eyes shut, bracing herself. But the blow she expected never came. Slowly, she opened her eyes. What she saw made her breath catch. The man was being held by the collar, lifted slightly off the ground by another man wearing a black cap who had just arrived. His grip was firm, his voice cold. If you're not going to pay, he said evenly, then move. With that, he dropped the man to the floor with a loud thud. Cursing under his breath, the man scrambled up and ran out of the store. Ji-eon finally caught her breath. The strange man was gone. Slowly, she turned toward the next customer in line. Thank you, and I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, she said politely. I can help you with checkout now. The man rubbed the back of his neck hesitantly. Okay, he replied, placing a packet of green grape candy on the counter. After paying, he turned to leave. Ji-eon bowed deeply. Thank you, she said sincerely. Just as he reached the door, the man suddenly stopped. He reached into his bag and pulled out a handful of candy, placing it on the counter. Ji-eon stared at him in confusion. Thinking she wanted more, he reached into his bag again and pulled out another one. Then, with a small smile, he said, just so you feel better. With that, he left the store. Even after everything was over, Ji-eon couldn't stop trembling. Soon, her shift ended. Before leaving, she warned the new staff to be careful and told them about the man who had attacked her. Walking down the street afterward, Ji-eon suddenly missed her mother terribly. She sent a message. Mom, I really don't want to go to work. She wasn't someone who usually said things like that. She didn't want advice. She just wanted her mother's concern. But her mother's reply broke her heart. Still, you have to make money. Ji-eon burst into tears. Her mother hadn't even asked why she didn't want to go. All Ji-eon had wanted was a few comforting words, but, broken, she pulled out a piece of candy and popped it into her mouth. Elsewhere, the young man opened the candy packet he had bought. He frowned. 6 were missing. Guess I need to go back, he muttered, remembering the woman. At the convenience store. Earlier, Doyun flinched the moment he saw Hyunsu Won. Hyunsu was a 36-year-old actor, once Doyun's partner in a drama. They met again at the same place Doyun had come for an advertisement discussion. Oh, long time no see, Doyun, Hyunsu said, striding toward him. Yeah, what are you doing here? Doyun asked. Oh, I'm just friends with the president, Hyunsu replied with a smile. So I dropped by to visit. Both Doyun and manager Kim's eyes went up. Wasn't he a little too young to be friends with the president? Oh, Doyun, Hyunsu continued, casually patting his shoulder. I saw the news. I was shocked at first, but I'm sure it's all part of some preparation, right? I'll be looking forward to it, he added with a smile. Doyun went silent. Before he could say anything, manager Kim sensed the tension and quickly grabbed Doyun's arm. We have to go, he said politely. It was nice meeting you, Hyunsu. Hyunsu waved casually. I'll call you later, Doyun. Doyun stopped. Hyunsu, he said calmly. I changed my number 3 years ago. Before things could grow any more awkward, manager Kim pulled Doyun away and left. The next day at work, Ji-eon was peeling onions. She reminded herself that her mother wasn't wrong. She had to get up and keep going. Complaining wouldn't change anything. Suddenly, she spoke up. What would you do if you had a doll that could control people? She asked her colleague. Her colleague looked up. You mean, like a voodoo doll? Ji-eon blinked. Well, she wasn't wrong. Yes, Ji-eon said slowly. But you can only use it on one person. For example, let's say you could control a famous actor with it. Oh, that would be amazing, her colleague replied excitedly. I'd make them work for me while I stay home and relax. Ji-eon didn't answer. She wasn't like that. She couldn't even imagine using someone like that. Lost in thought, she suddenly cut her finger while peeling the onion. Ji-eon, are you okay? Her colleague shouted. That was when Ji-eon realized what had happened. Later, Ji-eon was sent home because of her injury. Going to the hospital would be expensive, so she chose to go straight home instead. She didn't really want to. Her place was dirty, messy, and empty. Who would want to go home to that? As she reached the gate, she sighed. I should have kept working, she thought. At least I would have made some money. Suddenly, she sensed someone behind her. Slowly, she turned around. A man stood there, wearing a cap and a mask. Ji-eon's face went pale. But then, the man quickly removed his mask and cap. It was Doyun. Relief washed over her, but the fear from that night hit her all at once. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the ground. You scared me, she shouted. I didn't mean to, Doyun explained quickly. Then his eyes fell on her hand, wrapped in cloth already stained red. What happened to your hand? He asked sharply. Is that blood? Yes, Ji-eon replied. I'll just go upstairs and put a bandage on it. What are you talking about? Doyun snapped. Look at that. Do you really think a bandage will fix this? Ji-eon fell silent. She couldn't bring herself to mention money in front of him, afraid he would make a fuss again. But Doyun's expression turned serious. Come with me, he said. Soon after, they arrived at a hospital. Ji-eon was still in shock. This wasn't a regular hospital. He had brought her straight into the emergency room. How much is this going to cost? She worried anxiously. At the reception desk, a nurse handed Doyun a form. Please write down the patient's information. Doyun paused, thinking for a moment. Then he turned and stared at Ji-eon. What? She asked, confused. What's your name? He asked. Ji-eon froze. Oh, right. He doesn't even know my name. Everything went smoothly. Ji-eon's hand was treated and properly wrapped. Still, she kept worrying about the bill. But when she reached the counter to pay, the receptionist smiled. Your guardian has already paid. You're free to go. Ji-eon stood there, stunned. Why would someone who had made such a fuss over money help her like this? As they stepped outside, she finally asked, How much was it? I'll pay you back next time. Doyun handed her a bag. No need, he said calmly. I came today to repay you. Inside the bag was the sweatshirt she had lent him that night. Don't worry, I washed it, he added. Now that we're even, I'll go. As he turned to leave, Ji-eon suddenly realized something. Everything was settled. They didn't need to meet again. But then, what about the doll? She reached into her bag and pulled out the Mingji doll. At that moment, a child running past collided with her. Oh, are you okay? Ji-eon asked worriedly. The little girl lifted her head, and her eyes immediately lit up. It's a Mingji doll, the girl exclaimed happily, grabbing it. Ji-eon stared in confusion. From head to toe, the girl was covered in Mingji-themed items, a Mingji hairpin, a Mingji bag, even Mingji slippers. She was clearly a superfan. But that doll was special. Trying to stay calm, Ji-eon smiled gently. Little girl, would you mind giving my doll back? The girl looked at her, then hugged the doll tightly, refusing to let go. Ji-eon panicked. But, that's mine, she tried to reason softly. The girl's grip only tightened. From behind, Doyun spoke. Why are you fighting over a doll? The child is in the hospital, and besides, you can get that doll anywhere. Ji-eon shot him a look. You idiot, she thought angrily. If that doll ends up in the wrong hands, you're the one in danger. Why are you still here? She snapped. Just go, I don't have time to talk. But before she could finish, she realized the little girl was already gone. Ji-eon's heart dropped. She had messed up. Badly. This is your fault, she muttered angrily. How is that my fault? Doyun replied. And why are you so upset over a doll? Ji-eon hesitated. A thought crossed her mind. What if I'm the only one who can control him through Mingji? If the doll doesn't listen to anyone else, maybe it's fine if I don't get it back? But that fragile hope shattered instantly. Stegosaurus, I'll kill you, Doyun suddenly blurted out. His eyes widened in shock. Ji-eon's face drained of color. Now she knew. Anyone could control him with the Mingji doll, and that was very bad news. Ji-eon cried silently inside, but before she could say anything, Doyun suddenly rushed forward, as if possessed by some strange force. At the same time, two little boys snatched the Mingji doll from the little girl. We're gonna make it fight a Stegosaurus, they shouted excitedly. One of the boys held up a Stegosaurus toy and pointed it at the doll. Hey Mingji, bite the Stegosaurus. The bite came, but not from the doll. It came from a grown man. Before Doyun could actually bite the toy, Ji-eon pulled him back forcefully, covering his eyes. Oh my god, that was so close. She panted silently. Hey, what the heck, mister? One of the boys shouted. Before things could get any more chaotic, Ji-eon snatched the doll from the boy's hand. This is my doll, she said firmly, and you shouldn't play with other people's things. But in the very next second, the doll was grabbed again, this time by the little girl. It's Yunul's, she mumbled softly, hugging the doll tightly to her chest, tears welling in her eyes. Anyway, we're leaving, the two boys said, grabbing their toy and running off. Ji-eon turned to the girl. Eunul? She called gently, trying to reason with her. But Eunul only tightened her grip. Mingji is my friend, she said softly. Ji-eon, Doyun called from the side. It happened again, didn't it? Ugh, I can't believe this. He rubbed his head in embarrassment. Anyway, where am I? He asked. Oh, we're still in the hospital, Ji-eon replied. Oh, he said, glancing at the girl beside her. So you finally found her? Ji-eon nodded slightly. Yeah. She couldn't exactly tell him that he was the one who had led her here earlier. Meanwhile, Doyun was clearly frustrated. He even considered seeing a doctor, since they were already at the hospital. Ji-eon turned back to the girl. Yoon-yul, she said softly. This Mingji doll is really important to me. She paused, then turned to Doyun. And it's also really important to him. So could you please give it back? Doyun frowned. Why is she dragging me into this? That doll has nothing to do with me. Yoon-yul went quiet. Then suddenly she hugged Ji-eon instead. I'm sorry, the girl said softly. I'm sorry to Mingji too. Ji-eon smiled despite herself. The girl was adorable. Then Yoon-yul leaned closer and whispered in Ji-eon's ear, You know, Mingji has something to say. What? Ji-eon asked. Mingji wants to thank you for taking care of her, Yoon-yul whispered. And Mingji says she loves you. I see, Ji-eon murmured. But then her gaze drifted back to the doll. The girl had said all that while holding Mingji. Ji-eon slowly turned away, her thoughts spinning. Love, this doll can't control people's feelings, right? She instinctively looked at Doyun. His expression gave her the answer. Of course not, her mind screamed. Doyun looked irritated. If we're done here, I'm leaving, he said curtly. Ji-eon smiled faintly and turned back to Yoon-yul. All right, give Mingji back to me and go find your mom, okay? Yoon-yul smiled brightly. Okay. Goodbye, and kisses, sister, she said cheerfully. Mingji, you give kisses too. She handed the doll back and ran off. Ji-eon stood frozen. What did that child just say? Before she could gather her thoughts, Doyun suddenly grabbed her shoulder from behind and turned her toward him. He reached up to remove his hat. Hey, what are you doing? Ji-eon blurted out in panic. It's cold, put it back. Doyun tossed the hat aside. I've lost control of my body again, he said, his voice shaking. And I'm not doing this on purpose. His face was filled with shock. Ji-eon's heart began to race. Doyun stepped closer. I don't know what's happening to me, he said urgently, but just hit me. If you don't, then I will. He wrapped his hand around the back of her neck, pulling her face close to his. Ji-eon knew she had to do something, but her mind went completely blank. And that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this and want to be part of our growing community, hit join to support the channel. Take care and see you soon.